I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know, that or his dudeness or duder or, you know, El Duderino.
Welcome back Slotcar family on another video on Slotcar Dude. Today it's going to be another tech video. Yes, going tech again. Today I want to show you the easiest, quickest way to adjust the front height of the chassis and guide on a 32 chassis, especially on those chassis where you have the two screws coming from the top of the front axle and two screws coming from underneath. This would be a chassis where this is possible. You can see it down here. There are two holes for the screws coming from underneath, and there are two holes for the screws to come from the top. Now this is a 3D printed chassis, but this way of setting up the front axle is also to be found on NSR chassis or on slotted chassis. So what do we need? First of all, we need the chassis. Secondly, we need screws. Now, without the screws being screwed in, this is what the chassis will look like. It will lie flat on our adjustable plate. And what we want the chassis is to rise a little, to give space for the brakes, and in my case, to still have the front tires touch the track. Now, what you have to keep in mind when you do this adjustment is what kind of track will I be racing on. What I mean is, if you race on a wood routed track, you can keep the guide lower as the brakes are on the same level as the track. If you run, for example, on a Carrera track, the rails are a little above the track, which means your car is lifted, the brakes and the guide are lifted already a little up in the air. So you want the tires to go lower. What do I mean with that? Give me a second. So here we can clearly see what I was just trying to describe. If you look here, there is already a gap, a small air gap between the Carrera track and the chassis, because those rails are a little above the track surface. So let's go and adjust the chassis. And the easiest way to do it is you start with the top screws. Let me get this right here. So you start to screw in those top screws until the chassis is at the height you want it. So you start screwing in those top screws until the chassis rises from the track as to the level you want it. Now if you look closely here, give me a second, I need to readjust it. You can already see here quite well the distance that the chassis is already above the plate. So here we are. I screwed in those two top screws the same way down to lift up the chassis from the ground, as you can see here. I think this way you can see it better. The chassis is above this plate. The way I want it, me personally, for my style of driving, is to fit in the brakes here, and that the brakes are above the rail and the wheels still do touch the track, which means the brakes are lifted a little. It doesn't rub, the braids don't rub, but the wheels still touch the track. And the whole car runs on the front wheels and not on the braids. Yes, there are big discussions out there. Which way is better? I don't say there is a better way. I say this is the way I like my cars to ride on the track. So the only thing you need to do now, after you figured out your personal preference height, is to screw in those bottom screws. Give me a sec. I just need to put them on my screwdriver. So what you do here is you just screw them in here until the axle is locked, which means do this carefully. Now I can't turn it, and then you just do like a quarter of a turn or half a turn. You unscrew them again, and you do this of course on both sides, both holes. So as you can see, I screwed in the bottom ones and too tight, obviously, so I need to unscrew them a little more so that the front axle runs in there smooth, easy, and with not much movement up and down. The movement should be as small as possible, but the axle is still spinning freely. So, gentlemen, this is a quick and easy way to adjust your ride height at the front axle in a setup like this. Again, start on the top screw with the top screws, adjust to your height, adjust the chassis to your height, and then just screw in the bottom ones as a counterpart to have the axle running freely and smoothly. All right. Slotcar family, that was it. Another tech video on Slotcar Dude. As always, don't forget to hit that like button. Press the subscribe button if you haven't already to be informed when I come out with new videos. Like, share, leave comments, and as always with Slotcar Dude, don't forget, there's more to come.